Welcome to her comeback. I'm so glad you're back with me. This is where 50 isn't your finish line. It is your starting point, the starting point of everything you want your life to be, the person that you are meant to be. I'm your host, Michelle Thompson, and we are proving that your best chapter may just be the one you haven't written yet. This podcast will show you how other women have made their comeback and how you can too. Welcome back. Welcome, everyone, to her comeback. I am so glad that you're here. I am your host, Michelle Thompson, and I am happy to have with me today, all the way from LA, Shannaz Schopfer. Shannaz, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me on. Yes, so my name is Shannaz, as you mentioned. I'm originally from Switzerland. I fell into the beauty space through my father, who owned a company in the beauty space, who had started one on his own. I learned about the beauty industry there. Then I went on to start my own. And in 1994, moved to the United States and have had a great career. I've had 45 years in this industry. I've had lots of ups and downs, and I'm now in LA. So I'm happy to be on the show and share any of my experiences or anything that can help anyone feel that they're not alone in the world, and that we've all done something and had to change paths or change direction, and it's always possible to do.
Wonderful. You've spent over 35 years in an industry that the industry itself is really constantly reinventing.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the beginning, what drew you into the beauty industry in the first place? And has there ever been a moment that you almost walked away?
To be fair, my father was a serial entrepreneur. And growing up, we were moving one country to the other with new adventures and things. And one day he decided he wanted to start a skincare line in Switzerland. Why not? He did. And then I fell into working in the lab as free labor, because during my school breaks, etc., I was just there to help. So it was putting cream in jars and jars and boxes. And I saw how products were formulated. I watched how products were made. I saw really the beauty industry from its guts and fell in love. I was coming home with arms slathered in cream, and I just smelled so good all the time. I thought, why would I want a job in widgets when I could do this? So I really wanted to stay in this industry in some shape or form. Unfortunately, going to college, they didn't have a degree in business and cosmetics. So It was just international studies. I learned finance, learned international business, because I figure if you make it, you got to sell it. And decided I would stay in this business in some shape or form throughout my life. So 45 years, I'm still in the beauty industry, but there's been a lot of hops along the way. We had the brand, my father sold it in 89, so I was not going to inherit it. Had to do something else, so I had to start my own brand. Launched my brand in Europe and Asia. Then the next place to conquer was the United States. So I had to move to America and learn an entirely way to do business, because selling cosmetics in Europe is distinctly different from the United States. The consumer is different. The stores are different. Retail is different. Everything is different. So it's reinventing, re-challenging yourself to sell in this country. Then I sold my company in 2000 and found myself at that, I'm too young to retire. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And I fell in love with Los Angeles. It was sunny, it was warm, decided to stay here. My sister was living here, and had to reinvent myself and started a career. As I knew how to make products, I had watched people in the lab, I knew what was happening. I kept running into new female founders and people wanting to do their own brands. So I came in to help them navigate the world of manufacturing, because what a lot of people don't know is beauty brands are not made by the beauty brand. Beauty brands are the ones who think up the idea, who buy the product, who package the product and then sell the product, market it, etc. But they're actually manufactured at a separate third-party manufacturing facility. And there's a lot of them in the world, and there's good and bad. And so navigating the world of manufacturing, timelines, raw materials, tariffs now, that kind of thing. So it was a way for me to be the liaison between American brands and European manufacturers. Then one of the manufacturers out of Italy asked me to come on board and open up his West Coast office, which I did. Then a Canadian manufacturer asked me to come and open up a lab. So I went from being more sales showroom oriented to being actually a small mini manufacturing, hiring people and doing that. And then evolved
Wow.
into working for a company out of China who was launching in the United States. They wanted to acquire manufacturers. So I helped them more from the financial perspective, vet the right manufacturers for acquisition. Then COVID hit and they disappeared. So I had to reinvent myself and I had a team. So I was like, oh, now what do I do with my wonderful team? Ended up by working with a European manufacturer to bring them to the United States. So hired Americans so we could launch their products here. Had a great team of women working for me. And then at some point, the CEO in Europe was eliminated and the board decided that they wanted to make a few changes. So here I am finding myself not on the same page strategically and deciding, nope, not going to work for them. They don't want me. I don't want them. It's not going to work out. Let's reinvent ourselves. What do I want to do next? And so I started the Beauty Architects so that I could continue being that liaison between European manufacturers and American brands and facilitate and navigate that world, which can be very confusing when you're new, when you're starting up. Estee Lauder doesn't need me. L'Oreal doesn't need me. But a lot of new founders in beauty brands, which in California there are, still need to figure out who is a good manufacturer, who's a good partner. Should I go to Asia? Should I go to America? If I want to launch in America, but then eventually go global, do I have to look at regulatory a different way? What kind of packaging should I put this in? What kind of ingredients should I use? Who's my target audience? So I really help them navigate all of these things so that they can learn from my mistakes and my knowledge, but at the same time, hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that are so common in the beauty business today.
Oh, wow, that's great. It sounds really fascinating. And I don't know anything about the industry, and just listening to your overview, there's really a lot to it. So, your journey across cultures, as you mentioned, working across multiple countries, how has that shaped you being the woman who you are today, the leader that you are? How has that shaped you?
I think I started very young, traveling country to country with my family. And growing up that way was not ideal. I was very shy. We were constantly going to countries where I didn't speak the language. So I had to relearn languages, and they always put me in public school. So I would sit in a classroom and not understand the world. And that was very difficult growing up. And my father wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be shy. So he threw me into public speaking classes and theater classes as we kept moving. And by the time I was 15, I said, that's it. I need to go to boarding school. I need to settle somewhere and actually finish my education. But by then I realized I had such an education, learning from adaptability to being able to communicate with different people, with different languages, with different cultures, with different monetary systems, with different politics, with different religions. And it made me someone who's very adaptable, who's also very understanding. So as I started in my career, it's never been a problem for me to visualize myself working on a global scale, selling products or making beauty products for that global person, because I understand that the woman in Asia doesn't have the same skin type and doesn't have the same regimen or even need or want that the European consumer might, or that the Middle Eastern consumer or the American consumer has. And I think that has helped me really understand the world is very diverse, but at the end, we really, truly in our hearts want the same thing. And if you speak to people on a very authentic human level, and you always show them respect, and you adapt to them, you don't expect them to adapt to you, then those are really keys for me in business. And that's helped me a lot when I've hired people, because I can hire young, old, black, white, it doesn't matter. I don't see it. I don't care if they're straight, gay. As long as they're qualified, I really don't care. And it's been very easy for me to not put labels and say, I'm going to hire only women, only men, only young, only old. I'm open to hiring everyone because I've just grown up to be so understanding of everything that's around us.
That's fantastic. So, When you launched the Beauty Architects, your company today, you said that you had identified a gap where brands and manufacturers lack synergy. What did it take to trust that instinct enough to build something entirely new around it?
I have, there's a couple of things. I found myself after my last role as general manager for this manufacturer, I took a couple of months off and I really wanted to sit down and think, okay, am I going to retire? And am I going to find a hobby? And I still knew I wanted to be in the beauty business. And I still knew that I'm in a heart in LA. There's two places in the United States where there's a lot of new beauty business, and it's the East Coast, West Coast. Not so much in the middle. There's some brands that start there, but really the epicenter for beauty is LA, San Francisco, New York, and manufacturing in New Jersey. And because I'm still very connected to people in the industry, because I know so many people in the industry, I just started thinking, even though the world is more easily acceptable, there are still so many brands and so many manufacturers today. How do you find the right one? And since I already know so many people, it's easy for me to go to Europe. I speak the language, I understand the culture. I can go to Italy or Germany or France or Switzerland, Poland, whatever, and say, this is what my client is looking for. This is what the brand really needs to be a good partner. And I can understand where they're coming from, so I can translate it into a way that an American brand who wants to go fast, who wants to go cheap, who wants to hit the market with something original and unique and be the only one, and to tie these together. And I just thought there's a misunderstanding that's still happening with these new indie brands and with these manufacturers. Now, I'm not saying that they can't communicate with each other. They do all the time. But some manufacturers are new and don't have the wherewithal or the financial means to attract all of these American brands. And American brands are busy selling their product. They can't sit there and vet 16 different manufacturers. So really that's where I found that there's a space and that there's people who need to have that intermediary who can really say, oh, you need an OTC, which is an SPF or an acne product, then you should go to this manufacturer. Oh, you need something that's very high level, very difficult to process, who needs to encapsulate, you should go to this one. Oh, you're looking for something that's very texturally interesting and you're willing to try Korea or China, here's a few that you should try. So my role is really, because I've been on the global stage for so long, it's just been a much easier way for me to help them navigate this. And I thought this would be a great idea. I started looking into it, and the next thing I know, I've been working with a variety, and it's slow, but it's exactly what I love doing. And I wake up every day excited to do what I do, and I go to sleep and sleep like a baby. So clearly I'm doing something right.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's your passion. You're passionate about it.
Yes, I am passionate about the beauty business. I have to admit, I can't picture myself. I can be passionate about wine. I love good wine. My father was a connoisseur and a collector, so I've grown up in wine. And if I could mix wine and beauty, I would be in my sweet spot. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really love the beauty industry. I will say today, I think there are too many not great beauty products. We're putting out a lot of stuff that is mediocre, which is a shame. We're still putting out a lot of plastic and a lot of bad things for the environment. I think we can do better. I think for the longest time we've been, China's bad, whatever China makes is bad, and they are making beautiful, incredible products. And we need to start really considering that what they're making is just as good as the Europeans or better or America. And I think just there's still a lot of work to be done. So it's exciting for me to think that we're not just at a plateau, that we're actually going to keep evolving. And there are better ways to do this. And I'm excited to be a part of that growth. So if this business constantly moves, there's no way you can get bored. So why would I ever want to do anything else?
And I think with most businesses today, one of the key buzzwords is all about sustainability, right? That's definitely beyond the buzzword. I think with any new business, how will it sustain and how do you build and develop those sustainability practices into the work that you do?
For a couple of years, everyone was like, oh, we have to have a sustainable product. What does that mean? It means that you are sourcing your ingredients. So your manufacturer is in charge of sourcing your ingredients in a responsible way. That internally, when they're manufacturing the products, they're looking to manufacture it in a clean way where they're treating their employees well, that the machines are kept clean, that they're not putting a lot of bad things back into the environment through the water, filtration, et cetera. Then you're looking at what are you putting it in? And you can be as sustainable as you want, but if you're putting it in plastic, so now we've moved into, should it be refillable? That was always a great concept, but retailers pushed back. And the retailers said, we don't want to stock all that stuff. So the retailers have stopped us from doing it. And then should we be putting it in cardboard? How do we formulate and make something in cardboard? It would dry out and not withstand air and other environmental factors. So we still have a lot of work. And I think sustainability is a big word. If a manufacturer or a brand can become B Corp, which is a good citizen, and go through the work, I think that's a start. But it also has to do with how is recycling happening in a state-by-state basis. In California, we have the black bin, the blue bin, the green bin, and we try and put things in the right place. But then do we know where it ends up afterwards? Is the blue really being recycled, or is it being put on a ship and sent off to Peru? I had a very close friend who started a sustainable, clean makeup line. It was powder eyeshadow. She put it in a beautiful cardboard packet, which was biodegradable. Unfortunately, during COVID, she had to move to Arizona, and she found that there was no recycling. So it didn't matter. Yeah. So it's great to think about, and it's great to do everything you can and to be the best that you can be. But are we there yet? No.
Yeah. Okay. Good information there. I appreciate that. Bring it back to yourself personally again here. On our show, Her Comeback, we talk about women who have made bold pivots, chosen to build something that aligns with who they are, which I know that's something you can certainly identify. But was there a defining moment in your career that felt like a comeback, a time when you really had to choose courage over comfort? What would you say to that?
Oh, so many times. When my father had his line, I just kept seeing myself as the ultimate Nepo baby. It was like, oh my God, he's got a line. I'm going to inherit the line. I'm going to be this big executive woman with my own brand. Blah, blah. And then he sold the line and he said, you're on your own, kiddo. Yeah. I was like, oh, damn, now I got to do something. Yeah. So took the courage, started a line. A lot of people said, oh, no, you're too young. You don't have experience. What the hell are you doing? And he did it. Why can't I do it? He didn't know anything about the business. I figured I'd jump in. Then after I sold it, I found myself in that same place. What do I do? Do I reinvent myself? Do I go into charity work? Do I move back to Europe and work in wine? And it was just, no, I love the beauty industry. I still think there's so much to do. So I like to stay connected to it. And is it from the manufacturing or the brand side? I'm often asked, why don't you start another brand? And that is where I sit right now. And it's, I just can't imagine so much work and there's so much competition. But on the flip side, it's exciting because I know I have ideas. I know what's needed and what isn't. So it's a constant revaluation of what you want to do. And then there are things that happen in your life. Unfortunately, I've had some past tragedies the last couple of weeks that have really put things into perspective. And you think, yes, I want to do exciting things and I want to keep working, but then should I spend more time with those I love? And should I spend more time being present for those who do need me maybe more? So you have to constantly reevaluate and know that the time you have here is limited and you have to enjoy. And whatever that means to everybody, you can enjoy it in retirement, you can enjoy it working, you can enjoy it doing charity work. Whatever it means to you, you have to do. But I constantly find myself in the reinvention because if you stop moving forward, you stop living. And I see my mother is 90 years old. She lives in Switzerland. And after I told her about my dog's passing, the first thing she did, she said, oh my God, that's too depressing. I'm going to go pack a bag. I'm going to Greece for a month. And off she goes. She keeps moving forward, and she's fine, and she has a little mobility issues, because if I could walk like her when I'm 90, I'll be happy. But she said, I may not be able to do this for very much longer, but I'm not going to wait. I'm going to do it now. Life is too short. I'm going to go spend a month in Greece and walk around on my own with a small little bag. Off she goes. So I think if you keep
Good for her.
and keep reinventing and keep pushing yourself is really the key. And no matter what that means to you, but don't wallow and sit back and think, I can't, it's too hard. I'll fail. We all fail. So you get back up and you do it again.
You learn. You always learn,
Always.
right, from those.
Absolutely.
One of your personal mantras is to be brave, keep learning, and lift others up as you go. Tell me about the lifting others up part. Who are you lifting up right now, and why does that matter to you?
Again, staying in the beauty industry, I find myself working with new women, girls who are either graduating from certain schools like FITM here in LA, where I had a friend who was a teacher and used to invite me to come speak to her class. And they're trying to get into the beauty industry, and they're starting in product development or marketing or project management, that sort of thing. And it's hard to navigate. It's very competitive. The pay isn't great for those who don't know how to advocate for themselves. So my role has been to talk to as many of these young, up and coming women in our industry, show them that they can do the job, that they're more qualified than anybody else on a lot of times, that they deserve the equal pay, that they need to stand up for things when they see something wrong, stand up for it, don't take it. This industry really is women driven. The consumer's a woman, the women who work in it are women, but I'll be honest with you, the CEO and the top echelons are men still to this day in manufacturing and brands. The finance, the tech, there's a lot more men. And a lot of the younger generation coming in don't know how to deal with them. They're still very shy or insecure. So my role is really to help them navigate that and make sure that they can stand up for themselves, that they don't take, the bullshit, and that they can advocate for themselves and get the pay they deserve. And if they don't, then they have the right to go somewhere else and ask for it. And I also think in product development, there was a time where we learned a lot about the chemistry of formulation. And I think the new people they're hiring in product development really don't understand that. They're makeup users. They love to use blush and eyeshadow. And so for them, making product is just using more fun product. And it isn't. It's really understanding formulation theory. It's understanding what ingredients do, why you use them, how you use them, what kind of packaging or delivery system you should put them in. And I think sharing that information so that they can grow in the business and put better product out on the market is also part of the mentoring role that I find important.
Fantastic. And I love the fact that you mentioned about the men leadership at the top. And there was another question I was going to ask you about that specifically. What did it cost you to earn your seat at the table with these men leaders as you have navigated this business? What would you say to that?
I wish I had better news. There was a lot of times where once I pushed back and I got fired. Once I got hit on and brought it up to the top level and got fired. This was a long time ago when these things were more acceptable than they are now, but I've been through it, survived, stronger for it. When I was at one of my previous positions, the CEO came from a different industry, and I really helped him figure out how we should put this company together and move forward. And we worked on it together. And I said, you can take all the credit. It's not an ego thing for me. However, I think we can make a big success of it if we just do it right. And then he started deviating and doing his own thing. And I kept telling him, I'm like, you're off your path. We need to come back to where we need to be. Then he hired a bunch of guys and spent a ton of money writing a new strategic plan, which we should have done ourselves because we know the business. And a bunch of guys who were not from our business didn't know what they were doing either. And then the company fell apart, and then he got fired. What a surprise. We had lunch years later, and he said to me, he said, I wasn't made to be the CEO. You should have been the CEO. I said, yes,
Wow.
but would any of you have given me that option? And to
No.
this day, I keep getting people saying, Shannaz, why aren't you the CEO of X?
Mhm.
And I'm like, because the guys in the room want to hire their buddies who they play golf with. The
Mhm.
guys in the room want to hire men who have been successful, or they will hire women that they know that have done this before. Let's say, for example, Linda Yaccarino was hired at Twitter X. She had been in the industry. They hired her up. Now she can move across. But it's still very difficult. And I think there's a woman called Shelley Zallis who has a podcast and a YouTube channel, et cetera, called The Female Quotient, where she advocates for women getting the right pay, getting equal pay. And I think she's really trying to push and get these women to speak about their experiences. And you can see clearly that it's never equal, that we are still, that glass ceiling still exists, and some women break through it, but it's hard. We give up a lot to get
Mhm.
there, sometimes our own soul. And it's a tricky balance for us. And hey, the Americans still haven't gotten an American president who's a woman. So, we still have
Yeah,
some time
that's very true. Very true. We have a ways to go.
to do it.
So, if a woman listening right now is sitting on an idea and maybe she spotted a gap in her industry, maybe it's not beauty, it's some other industry, but she sees something. What's the one thing she needs to hear before she talks herself out of it?
Oh, and it can be tricky because there's always that grumbling in the back. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not whatever it is. You have to follow your gut. You have to have grit and know it's going to be hard. If you're not willing to put in the work and you just think it's going to be easy, you are fooling yourself. It is never easy. Surround yourself with people that are not toxic. And that could be family, it could be friends, it could be mentors. And talk to them about the concept or the idea, but make sure first you get an NDA because too many people steal your ideas. And talk to them about, don't say, is this a good idea? Say, if you were to do something like that, what would you see the pitfalls and the positives being? And they may think of something that you haven't thought of, which gives you some critique that you can then try and resolve before you launch. And there are great people out there who are willing to, who've already done something similar or have tried to do something, and they're willing to talk to you. They're willing to give you advice. Offer them to take them out for a cup of coffee. Email them and just say, I just want 10 minutes of your time. I have an idea. I'm not sure. Is it a good idea? And they might tell you, we don't know, but at least they might give you some direction on who you should talk to. They might advise you on where you can maybe read something, a podcast, an article, someone who's done it somewhere else in the world. So research is important. Meeting people and talking to them is important. But at the end of the day, it's really your gut. And if it's something that you really believe in and you think it's not going to change the world, but it's going to change how you feel about yourself, you need to do it. And again,
Yeah.
failure is an education. You may fail,
Yeah.
but you might fail and do something better afterwards. It's a stepping stone.
Oh, that's beautiful. Love it. I really have enjoyed our conversation. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights and your experience. If other women or men, for that matter, anyone that would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Honestly, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. My life is not that interesting. And honestly, I don't have that kind of time, but I am on LinkedIn under Shannaz Schopfer, and I have the Beauty Architects, which is my company website, and my LinkedIn section. And so that's the best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. That's where I spend most of my time working and trying to post things that are helpful or educational or inspirational. I try to recommend products. I try to recommend things in the world. So if they just want to reach out to me, I think that's the best way. And if they're in LA and they just want to take me out for a glass of wine, reach out to me and let me know. And I'm always here to share and just talk to people. And I know my husband often says, oh, you're taking so much time away from me. And I said, but yes, but I feel an obligation to share as much as I can while I'm still here.
That's wonderful. Oh, you're an amazing person. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
I don't think I'm a good writer. English is not my first language. And so I don't know if I could write it, but if I could find a ghostwriter who could just take all my thoughts and stick it on a piece of paper, sure.
Yeah.
I have plenty of stories. I know where all the bodies are buried.
Yes, I feel like it would be a fascinating book. It would be a fascinating
Thank you.
read.
I so appreciate that. I don't think my life's that interesting, but thank you.
Yeah. So good to get to know you a little bit and spend some time with you. I wish you continued success in all that you do and whatever the next chapter looks like and what you have in your world. I wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate it. I look forward to listening to next on who's on your podcast, and I'm sure I can learn a lot of things too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You have a lovely day.
You too.
Thanks so much for joining me today on Her Comeback. I hope this conversation inspired you to keep moving forward no matter where you are in your own journey. If you love this episode, I'd be so grateful if you would subscribe to the show on my YouTube channel at Michelle Thompson Life Coaching. Remember, your setback isn't your final chapter. It's just the setup for your greatest comeback yet. I'll see you next time. Until then.
I cross my legs up in